You get to decide. You get to set your North Star, and it doesn't have to be it. You'll find place, you'll make it when you have community, when you have meaningful relationships, when you're giving of yourself, when you're in service to a grander vision than your ego.
That's Adrian Grenier. You know him as an actor who starred in Entourage, The Devil Wears Prada, and more. But today, he's a farmer living at what he calls Earth Speed. And this is Make Yourself at Home, the podcast that takes you into the homes of people you admire to show you a side you don't usually get to see. I'm Kristen Twyford, and every week we'll talk to someone at the top of their career to explore holistic success and how work and home are inextricably intertwined. Along the way, we hope to inspire you to live well, whatever that means to you. Make Yourself at Home is presented by Nines, the household management app designed to help you manage your home and everything that comes with it, so you can live with ease. Today, we're at Kintsugi Ranch, Adrian Grenier's farm in Bastrop, Texas, a town with a population of about 9,000 people. Adrian left Hollywood in 2020 and changed his life completely. He's created Earthspeed Media, a hub for education and inspiration around land stewardship, and DuContra Ventures, which makes impact investments in companies that aim to improve the human condition and benefit the planet. He's even the chief Earth advocate for the space tourism company Worldview. But these changes in his professional life started with his own inner transformation. And in this conversation, we're talking about why Adrian feels so much more at home here than in Hollywood, how his views on money and success have changed, and his recent marriage and why he feels his wife Jordan is his soulmate, sent to shake up his life. Make Yourself at Home with Adrian Grenier. Adrian, thank you so much for having us into your home. We're so happy to be here.
Yeah, my pleasure.
To
Hello.
start out, set the stage for us. Tell me a little bit about your home and why you love it.
My home, I've actually been spending a lot of time at home, and I love it because in my true nature, I am a homebody. Like I definitely, I'm a crab, Cancer the crab. So I just want to be nested inside my little home there. And so I've just been spending a lot of time here, and it's great because I've been able to construct my life so that I can be home a lot, because my home is 46 acres of land that I'm tending to, that I'm stewarding, that I'm building a community on. And, home is also community, of course. So it's the people you love, family, and then friends and gatherings and that sort of thing. So it really is home focused life over here.
Yeah. Would you say you've always been a homebody?
Absolutely. I just, I was an imposter as a jet setter. Even though I was, for probably 15, 20 years, I was on a plane every couple of weeks, every month at least, going everywhere, doing everything. And secretly, I was deep down inside wishing I was home.
Do you think you ever felt at home in Hollywood?
Does anybody? I don't think that's the point. No, I actually think that there's something about Hollywood, something that's within its DNA that's very isolating. It's a one industry town. Everybody's your competition because everybody wants to be an actor, and it's tough because it's hard to really make those long-lasting bonded friendships, especially when you end up going to shoot a movie or you're traveling and you can't really, establish those deep-rooted relationships. And that's just, I think, the nature of the beast. And ironically, like you'll do a movie and you'll really get close with 100 people on the crew, and you'll be family for 6 months, for a month, for 8 weeks, and then that's it. Bye bye. Never,
Yeah.
never to see you again. So there's something um, that it it's disconcerting. It doesn't really allow for you to have. It's transient in its
Mm-hmm.
nature.
Yep. And thinking about your home today, it's been sort of at the center of this shift in your life. What does home really mean to you now? You're living in Texas, you're out on a ranch. It's incredibly different from what you had been doing before. What does home mean to you now?
To me, home is our relationship with nature. And that's what we've been exploring on my show, Earth Speed. Really, the idea that we have place in the world, that we are at home in the earth, on the earth, with the earth. As a species, I think we've been wrestling with that because we've spent so much time trying to assert our dominion over nature, trying to control it and exploit it and use it to our ends to build cities that further isolate us from nature and from our true nature, which is nature,
Mm-hmm.
that we now feel isolated and we get stuck in our own aggrandized ego and sense of self. So for me, home is really coming back down into the soil, onto the earth, living in nature, recognizing that we've always been home and that we have place when we let nature take its rightful place in our lives
Mm-hmm.
instead of trying to either control it or like hide away from it.
Yep. And if I had asked you that question maybe 10 or 15 years ago, at the height of your acting career, you're on a hit show, Entourage, what do you think your answer would have been to that question? What did home mean to you then?
Well, New York, like obviously, a concrete jungle.
Yep.
I'm at home everywhere I am, wherever I am, whatever, just rationalizing a state of constant movement. And um, yeah, it would have totally been, I think, a rationalization.
Mm-hmm. Yes. And so I want to talk a little bit about this shift. I think, many people know you as an actor. They might be surprised to find you here living on the ranch. You had really made it in your career. You were on an iconic show, blockbuster movies, and you were even recognized as a UN Environment Goodwill Ambassador. So to somebody who thought, wow, he's really made it, what would you say was missing? And what do you think was not quite right about it? What made you say, you know what, this is not the version of success that I feel is right for me anymore?
Well, there's a reason why they never define it. It's,
Mm-hmm.
it's this vague aspirational thing which no one can ever really put their fingers on. And it's designed that way because you always need more. You're
Mm-hmm.
always striving, constantly seeking, and there's this scarcity complex, this anxiety that you don't have enough. So even when, it's relative. So to somebody, they go, oh, he made it. Okay, I made it. But relative to where I was, I always wanted more. I always needed more. I never felt like I had enough. I was enough. And it's, I think it's part of that isolation. You're always
Mm-hmm.
seeking to feel at home. You're seeking to feel connected. And you feel like if I could just make this next dollar or if I could buy this next thing, somebody will invite me home and I'll feel safe and comforted. But that never really buys you that sense of place. It's something that I think it's a spiritual reckoning.
Mm-hmm.
It's something that you have to really look at inside and take stock and humble yourself to the point and recognize that you'll find place. You'll make it when you have community, when you have meaningful relationships, when you're giving of yourself, when you're in service to a, a grander vision than your ego.
Mm-hmm.
It's not as vapid as consumption and indulgence. It's something that's contributing to the greater good, whatever that is. I mean, and look, you get to decide. You get to set your North Star, and it doesn't have to be it.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it could be something that's important to you, but that's on you.
Yep.
And a lot of times people just take the off the shelf idea of success that's fed to us by media and capitalism, consumerism, and we take that and make that our ambition. But I think the first things first, you have to really grapple with these deep philosophical questions and ponder, what is it? Why am I here? Well, what is it that I want, and what am I building and creating? And so I've redefined it, and it's a lot more defined now. It's I can actually point to it, and I can look out there and I'm like, there it is. You can open the window and you can smell it, and you can touch it. It's here. It's out in nature.
And in the last couple of years, it sounds like your life has changed in every way. So not just the work that you're doing and being out on the farm and, investing in companies to make an impact, but also in your personal life, you've changed not only where you're living, but also your relationships, and you just got married. Congratulations. And it sounds like your wife, Jordan, was really a part of this transformation. So take me back to that aha moment where you guys broke up. You had been dating for a while, right, while you were still in Hollywood. What happened that was sort of an aha moment as part of this transformation with her?
I mean, it's all part of the same impulse. Before, when I was living in my ego of accumulation and power dynamics, I was always looking to acquire and accumulate and achieve. And even in my relationships, it was like, can I, get the girl, or can I get the better girl next time? And can I continue to, grow or climb that ladder?
Mm-hmm.
And it wasn't really, I hate to admit it, it wasn't really about being in service to the woman. And I think my total shift in perspective is, not only am I here in service of nature, but also feminine energy. Women, I'm here to serve. So because women, I think, are really the ultimate, the navigators of culture and society, and they tell us where we need to go, because ultimately women are the bearer of children. They're the ones who are the magicians who can conjure life from nothing and bring it into the world. And there is nothing more precious than that gift. And so my goals have shifted to be in service of my partner, of my wife, so that she can be as safe as she can be and feel as nurtured and loved as possible, so that when she brings in life, our children, into the world, they feel that on a deep genetic, energetic level, so that my children have a way better life than I did when I grew up in a broken home.
Mm-hmm.
And so back to home, it's really about how can me as a man, as a masculine force, create home in a safe environment for my wife, my children, and the world.
Mm-hmm. And you've talked about how she delivered this sort of cosmic wallop that helped you kind of change your life. What was it about her and the way that she, came to you with this message that really made that a wake-up call for you?
I mean, I really do believe that we are soulmates, I guess. We definitely had soul contracts to come into this life and do this thing together. And I think part of that contract, and I don't know if I had a lawyer when we signed it in the other worlds, but I certainly signed the contract where I was like, you're going to come in, you're going to slap me upside my face so that I learn something in this world. And she did. She fulfilled her side of the bargain. And she was the first woman at least the first woman that I perceived, that I was able to witness as wanting more from me.
Mm-hmm.
She didn't just allow the worst parts of me. She challenged me in a powerful, powerful way, as a strong woman that she is, to be more than I am. And I didn't, I wasn't able to do that. And when I failed, she left me.
Mm-hmm.
And her, the very act of her leaving me, and that's, look, I think that's sort of how the energetic dynamics work. I always thought that women were a nag. They were like poking me and always like, they always had an issue with like, oh, come on, man, can't we just be cool, man? Like, what? Like, just like let it be.
Mm-hmm.
And what I realize now is that gift is to recognize when something is out of alignment, when something isn't at its maximum potential. And so she poked me hard enough to be like, and left me, because she saw that I wasn't growing up. I wasn't, um, meeting the moment. And I was lucky enough to wake up from myself and my ego, and suffered a really harsh ego death, humbled, had to rebuild myself into something that was capable. And that was my goal at the moment, was I wanted to be the kind of man that she wouldn't have left. Like,
Mm-hmm.
what kind of man would she have kept around? And in that process, I became the man that I got, that she accepted back in her life, and married.
Yeah. How did you guys meet? Do you think in the moment when you first met her, there was something that you're like, wow, this person feels like they're going to change my life? Or do you think it was kind of a surprise later on?
I mean, I always dug her. I was always into her. We got along really well, and but it was casual. It was long distance. It was casual. It was
Mm-hmm.
non-committal. That was just the way I was living, and she understood that. And at a certain point, she wanted more.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and it was me that recognized that I was the one who was losing out big time in that. And it was an ultimate loss for me. She was going to go find another amazing person. I'm sure of it. So
Mm-hmm.
it was up to me to make sure that that she wasn't the one that got away.
Yeah. Awesome. And so you had this ego death, and then you call her back and say, hey, I want to change my life and I want to do this with you. How did that conversation go, and how did it, result in where you are now?
How much time do you have? When I reached out to her, I think, we hadn't been in touch for a while. Like, we had been broken up for 2 years, and I sent her an email. I was like, hey, and I think that the point of distinction was, it wasn't just, hey, I want you back. Like, we're perfect for each other. Let's do this. It was,
Mm-hmm.
hey, I recognize I've done enough work. I did, a year and a half, 2 years of deep, deep soul searching, and went through a significant transformation, to the point where I approached her not like, hey, I want to try and get you back because, my ego is wounded, but
Mm-hmm.
more, I recognize what I did, how I was. I want to make amends. I want to find closure, not for me, but for you, because I really truly want you to be able to put this behind you, so that you can love again in like a clean, liberated way. And also, I knew I couldn't move on until I made right, until I
Mm-hmm.
made things right, um, just karmically. So I basically, I spared no expense. I dropped everything. I said, whatever you need, however it needs to be, for as long as it needs to be, I am here to make amends and find closure with no expectations.
Mm-hmm.
Sneaky, sneaky. No, in all honesty, I wasn't trying to marry her, to be very honest. I just, when she saw me for the first time as me, like the true me,
Mm-hmm.
and we had the amount of connection that we did, and we both wanted the same things, and we couldn't stay away from being together. And I sent her, I told her I wanted to buy land and do nature, and she sent me a picture. She did an exercise where she was drawing a picture of what she wanted to manifest, and it was land and community, family, and home. And so it was fated.
Yeah,
It was fated.
that is amazing. And so now you guys have chosen this life together and you're homesteading and you're working on the land together. Has it really become what you envisioned?
Oh yeah, yeah. I mean, the thing that's what I envision is just doing this every day and supporting each other through the challenges. I mean, it's not easy.
Mm-hmm.
We like to, people like to post like the idyllic moments, the peak moments where the sunset's just right. I mean, I did that yesterday. But there's a whole day between, a beautiful cup of Joe with your sweetheart, and a kiss and an idyllic sunset. There's challenges, but you get to do it. We get to do it together, and more
Mm-hmm.
importantly, I get to give my life force to her, and fingers crossed, we can bring some babies into the world and really make it challenging.
That is a game changer. Why is it so important to you to have kids and be a dad? What excites you about that idea?
I believe that we live forever. I believe in eternal life, but not in the way that we imagine. It's not me in this meat suit
Mm-hmm.
living forever like a vampire, but we really get um, to tell the story of our existence, of life, through how we live, and the encoding, like the little compressed pieces of experience that we put into our genetic code.
Mm-hmm.
And then that goes into our children, and then our children unlock that, and there's something instinctive that they learn from us, and they carry on that legacy, they carry on that wisdom that you spent your life um, creating and conditioning in your being. And it's a collective, like we all. So, like, I feel like what I get to do is heal the parts of my wounded boy for not having my dad growing up, for example. I get
Mm-hmm.
to heal that for my kids, and now they can start to heal other things because they're not worried about that one piece. And that's it's almost like a relay. Like we get to pass it on to, and I believe that the collective awareness, the collective consciousness lives on, so that one day I will live through my ancestors. I will be awakened again, not me, this guy in the
Mm-hmm.
meat suit, but just the awareness will get to be alive again. So I take that's my faith, I guess.
Mm-hmm.
And that is whatever, that's my God, my collective, goodness, God consciousness. And that's what I get to live for. It's a spiritual thing and a spiritual belief that I get to really, truly make the most of this time I have here so that I can give, pay it forward, give
Mm-hmm.
forth.
Yeah, and I think that shows it has such a ripple effect in every part of your life and the way that you're spending your time. If you think about, waking up and taking care of the farm every day, and then all of the impact investments that you're doing and all of the work that you're doing to sort of better the planet and better humanity. For you, how is all of that work sort of an act of faith?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Uh, a lot of people think that they can somehow find certainty by clamping down and squirreling away enough nuts, then holding them for themselves, that they can know that tomorrow they'll have life and liberty. But I think that's just the backwards thinking. It's all faith. Who the fuck knows what's going to happen tomorrow or in the next 10 minutes?
Yeah.
And when you look out and you work with nature, nature tells, reminds you of that lesson every single moment. And so you have to ride with it. You have to dance with it. And you don't know, like you plant a seed, you water it, you give it all the things that it says they're supposed to give on the back of the, little pouch that the seeds come in. And maybe it'll come, maybe it won't, maybe it comes next year. And you're like, where did this guy come from? Or, I mean, right now we're dealing with sweet potatoes that are in the complete opposite of the garden where we didn't plant them. So we're like scratching our heads. We're like, what? But you know what? Like, this is blessing. This is serendipity. And that's, I think, what life is. It's not certain, but it's full of serendipity and, joy and beauty and bounty that you didn't necessarily ask for, as long as you just remain open and curious and available to what is.
Mm-hmm. And it sounds like what you're working towards is so different now, and your relationship with money has really changed. Achievement, money. What have you learned about success and achievement and, even financial reward, and how has your relationship with that drive to achieve more, gain more, earn more, how has that all changed?
Yeah, well, I like to think that I've become more sophisticated and wise.
Mm-hmm.
um, you know, at DuContra, our impact investment company, we have this idea of seeking YBM, not just ROI, but also YBM, which is yield beyond money.
Mm-hmm.
What is that stuff, the essence of faith and creativity that our entrepreneurs that we support, the businesses that they create, are looking to build and grow in the world. That's not just bottom line. That's not just accumulation of money. And one way that you work towards that is by really looking at your relationship to money and wealth.
Mm-hmm.
And I think we all have a default, uncontemplated relationship to money. We take it for granted. We're like, oh yeah, money, I want that. At best, you see, people with bling and, counting their dollars, and it's like, I want that. Why? What is that going to do for you?
Mm-hmm.
It's just, money is a tool, and the tool is you should use the tool to build the world that you see that would make you and your community thrive, and your neighbors, and give bounty outwardly, so that, they say you can't be rich unless your neighbors are rich, because you could have the nicest house, but if the rest of the neighborhood is in squalor, if you're living in like a white elephant with big fences and you can't leave your house and you're imprisoned in your own wealth, you're imprisoned in your own fortress because you don't even want to go to the store because it's dangerous and people are poor and they're hungry and there's a food desert and there's no like good food to be shared. Are you really rich? So I think it's really an act of self-love and self-preservation to make sure that your neighbors are doing well, that your community has what they need to also share and thrive. And so it really changes the idea of wealth accumulation, money, what we're using it for. And I keep going back to this, but that is a personal, spiritual question. Like, what is right relationship to money? Am I acting every day in fear and scarcity? And am I holding on so much to this money? Do I believe that the story that I don't have enough and I need to keep working 10 jobs to make more so that I can eat crappier food and be less healthy? Or do I need to spend all my money to go to college university. Like, yeah, I need to borrow a bunch of money, spend it all on, fancy colleges that basically give me a dorm room so I can learn how to party. And are they really giving me the skills that I need to make the most of my life? And it's not just the job so I can listen to my boss so that I can earn more money and climb that ladder. But imagine what we could do if we really brought people in alignment with money value and like, wow, we start to realize that value is not just the dollars and the cents. It's also our relationship to the earth and to ourselves and to each other. And you have so much more wealth than you even recognize here on the land. Like sure, we want to, we're not, I'm not naive. We live in a commerce-based society, right? Got it. So we're not going to pretend like we're living in some, fantasy, in some utopian commune. But we start to look at the other things that hold value that aren't money, like seeds. So we store seeds here because seeds are infinitely valued. They actually store future sustenance, right? And so we start to collect seeds and store them here so that we have them for the future. And that's wealth. We wood. So if there's a tree, it falls down from a storm, we mill it and we keep the planks and we store them so they're dry. They can cure, because we need wood to build things. We need wood for different purposes. And if you know the price of lumber these days, that's wealth. We basically have a bank of wood and seeds and water. We're like creating, like we're shaping the land so that when it rains, it stores and it charges with water, so that our water table is enriched, and then we have, medicines growing in the fields that we can use if in case you need it, if you have a bug bite or something. So for me, it's like this holistic journey of recognizing what is value, what is wealth. And money serves its purpose, but money is an abstraction to real wealth. So you have to continue to refer back to what it is that's truly valuable and what is really wealth. And then the money should just be a placeholder for that, but only a temporary one.
And I know you've made some really close relationships with the farmers around you. What have they taught you about living well? I can imagine that that's such a different community to be a part of than when you were in Hollywood. You're, like you said, making short-term relationships. These people feel like your family and then they're gone. What feels different now that you're a part of this community of farmers?
Well, one thing that I'm just so chuffed about is that I'm being embraced by the elders in this community. I didn't grow up with strong father figures, not a lot of strong male role models, and now I have them, aplenty. And I have like 4 adopted grandpas, and they're all so very willing to, not only willing, like wanting to bring me in and share with me and work with me and support me. In Hollywood, everything's competition. Like, I didn't really trust that someone had my back unless it served them. And so I didn't, even the men, is like, are they just using me for some reason? And, or will they, I mean, case in point, I haven't heard from many of them since I've been here. My mentors, right? The men in Hollywood who were, I had one guy in Hollywood who used to call me son, like literally son. And we had this little thing, and I mean, not to get so sappy about it, but like he abandoned me just like my dad did. um,
And the fact that he called you son makes it,
but
really almost manipulative.
perhaps, but also, poor thing.
Yeah.
I say with compassion, maybe he didn't know better, and
Mm-hmm.
maybe, he's working through whatever he needs to, and I don't know what his karmic debt to society or to the universe is, but it's a lesson for me, So, and now here I get to make up for that, and perhaps it was me, perhaps I was still in my wounding, that I was playing into that, not recognizing that I wasn't truly being held and nurtured. Now that I'm in my more aligned self, now that I'm in my adult masculine form, like my mature masculine,
Mm-hmm.
I can seek out the father figures that really truly see me and care for me. And
Mm-hmm.
so it's this great now coming together and, healing for me. And I think that, they, once they get over the fact that they are, don't believe that the Hollywood guy actually wants to do any real work, once they recognize that I'm actually wanting to, get my hands dirty, they're so excited to just bestow the wisdom, and that's the natural cycle of things, right? There's
Mm-hmm.
the adults, the elders, they pass down that wisdom, and we should be talk about wealth, right? I mean, we put our parents and our grandparents into homes, and we forget about them. We need to be with them, and there's so much wealth in their wisdom that we should be bringing that back into self. And it's not just about, well, Dad, I can't be with you, because you're in a home and I'm out making money, so I got to go. But no, that's the real wealth there.
Mm-hmm. What's the best piece of advice or wisdom that one of your adopted grandfathers has given you?
Oh man, best piece of advice. I mean, on Earth Speed, we're starting a series, like a series within the channel called Friends and Mentors. And I have a mentor, Mike, um, who's gonna have a series where he's basically all the things that he's teaching me. We're gonna like let everybody get a taste of it,
Mm-hmm.
because he just is such a wealth and depth of knowledge. And I mean, he'll go on a million tangents, and you're just like, man, there's just too much information. But I want everyone to just check it out, because you'll get to learn what I learned from him.
Love that. Yes, Earthbeat is amazing. I want to talk a little bit about that and then your investments with DuContra, and you're even a chief Earth advocate for Worldview space travel now, which is amazing. And it really seems like what you're striving for is so different from what you strived for early in your career. When you're a kid in New York, going to acting school, getting ready to, go after that dream, then at the top of your Hollywood career, you're kind of chasing after so much, like you talked about earlier. Now, as you look ahead at your career and at your whole life holistically, what does success look like to you? What are the next 10, 20 years? What do you want that to look like?
Well, yeah, I mean, we started Earth Speed Media,
Mm-hmm.
which I'm very excited about, and we're looking to share a little bit of this, Earth wisdom. It's a lifestyle in the cadence of nature. So everything's a lifestyle brand, right? Everything is aspirational. How do we want to live? And from our perspective, we want to live closer to nature. We want to learn from what the earth has to teach us, from design principles. Like, the earth is nature. Life is such an amazingly designed company. It's like it works so well. It's anti-fragile, it's resilient, it's bountiful. And we got a little ahead of ourselves. We were too smart for our own good. Now we can come back and start to reintegrate a little bit more, so that the channel is a way for people to start recognizing that we have a lot to learn, but also that we can dance with nature and design within nature and use those principles in our own lives. And it's not just you have to be a farmer or you have to have a garden, but it's also, can you take those design principles and apply them to your everyday?
Yeah. And I think it's interesting you mentioned earlier about Instagram and, people could watch Earthspeed and think like, wow, I wish I could do that. And I think it's funny that people might look at your life in Hollywood and say, oh, what a life. I wish I had that. And then now they might look at your life on the farm and say, what a life. I wish I had that. I think it's easy for people to sort of idealize any sort of lifestyle and say, oh, if only I could do this. And there might always be some kind of excuse, I couldn't do that because I can't leave it all behind, or I couldn't do that because I don't have the money or I don't have the talent. What do you think you've learned, and what message do you want to share with people who might look at either one of those lives and say, oh, wow, I wish I had that?
I would encourage everybody to take a permaculture course, because you learn lessons within that are so important and applicable to your everyday. It's not just in the garden or when you're designing a landscape or nature, but it's also, you can apply it to your business and your relationship to your family. Because when I start to realize that I am not separate from nature, like everything in how I be works within the same rules, the same laws of flow of energy and elemental, aspects. And so if you want to create abundance, if you want to create the life that you want, if you want to achieve, you have to use the laws of nature, and that's just fundamental. This is like first principles, basic rules that you can utilize. And it's also extremely enjoyable just because you do get a sense of being more connected. Mm-hmm. People are too impatient. They want it now. And consumerism and especially now digital formats and the immediacy of technology and social media, it makes us think that we need it all now. We have to reintroduce ourselves to patience and boredom. Sometimes it's not that fun.
Yeah. Do you feel like that's still been a struggle for you? I mean, I can imagine it's hard to unplug and change your life so much. Where do you feel like you are in your own journey with this?
It's easy. There's no Wi-Fi out here.
That is easy.
Look, I still struggle to put down the phone, and now I'm like into like podcasts. Mm-hmm. Even when I'm working, I want to listen to a podcast, and that's tough because I get distracted. Just like, I'm not perfect by any stretch of the imagination. These are just basic principles that keep me striving. One thing I love about being here in nature is that it will remind me to be present. Mm-hmm. If I'm out there working and I'm distracted, suddenly there's a snake, and it's a poisonous snake. And it reminds me, like, pay attention, be here now, because if you don't, you may not be here at all. So there's valuable lessons in just having those reminders ever present.
Mm-hmm. Do you have, pangs of missing Hollywood, or you feel like you've really found the right place and you don't look back?
I look back and I realize how much stress and anxiety I got from being in New York and LA. And, I got used to it. I became accustomed to it. I was desensitized to it. And my ego sort of rationalized it to think this is the way you're supposed to feel, all hopped up and like, yeah. I grew up in New York. It was like a source of confidence and ego. Like, I'm a fucking New Yorker, right? Mm-hmm. And then I go back there now and I'm like, man, how did I survive this? I mean, it's brutal out there. And I was like, it's a lot. It's a lot. So I like going back and visiting friends and family. My mom's still in New York. but I can't stay for that long. I couldn't
Mm-hmm.
do a whole week there. It's just a lot. It's just a lot.
Yeah. Do you think if you had not had the fame and money and success that acting brought you, you would have found your way here where you are now at your sort of most true self?
I mean, I like to think that I would have. Yeah. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I spent, again, like I was mentioning, getting into right relationship with money. I had to really check myself and look at, how I was using money and what role it was playing in my life. And a lot of times it was to make other people like me, to see that I was worth something and that, I was, they wanted to spend time with me. Um, as a way to like impress people. And I spent, when I was going through my dark night of the soul to ultimately get back my now wife,
Mm-hmm.
I I spent a year living with very little means, like humble means, very low to the ground. I put some rules on myself where I wasn't allowed to talk about my accomplishments. I wasn't allowed to tout my successes in Hollywood. I wasn't allowed to, I wasn't living. I have a beautiful home in Brooklyn, and I wasn't living there. I was living in a little camper. So I like basically reduced my lifestyle so that it was extremely humble and extremely meager. And then I had to be in the world. And that was really hard because I couldn't impress people with the same outward, indications of success and,
Mm-hmm.
you know, relevance, which means I had to seek deeper, like, who am I? Like, what do I have to offer if it's not all this stuff? So, and I realized I could live like that. I could live, I mean, I was cooking on an open fire and I was gardening and like just doing very simple things. It wasn't impressive by any stretch of the imagination. And I was like, I could do that. I can do that. And I'd be totally content, totally happy. And now that gave me permission to use my wealth to like really make bold choices.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't feel like I need to hold on to it and I need to keep it. And that way I can continue to impress people. I can use it to really shape, my highest sense of what's possible and reflecting my higher ideals.
And now, so you're doing this incredibly meaningful work. You have a really strong relationship and you're living the way you want to live every day. You mentioned your mom earlier, and she raised you in New York City, and she's seen every sort of step of the way for this, path to success and changing path to success. How has it been for her? What's been her reaction to seeing you now in your element?
My mom, I love my mom so much. It was just us, only child, single mom.
Mm-hmm.
We were close. Yeah, and it took me a long time to leave the nest,
Always a
so to
homebody,
speak.
right?
Yeah, I was like, I don't want to go. It's scary out there. Um, but I think our relationship has really strengthened now that I'm, a more responsible human. I think she's proud of me. I hope she is. And I love her so much, and she gave me all the strength and fortitude that have to be able to make these bold changes in my life and really strive for the things I'm looking to create. So, thanks, Mom.
Yeah, awesome. I want to get into our lightning round of fun questions. So, to kick it off, how do you spend your free time at home? Do you have any free time on the ranch, or is it you're working all the time?
Yeah, I mean, it's becoming one and the same. Like, I feel so grounded and just calm that it feels free. I feel liberated in the work.
Mm-hmm.
It doesn't feel like a chore or a burden. But my wife and I like to go out and have a dinner. I mean, that's like one of
Mm-hmm.
my favorite things, and listening to music, going out to see concerts. And there's a lot of music here in Austin. So,
Mm-hmm. Oh, yeah, awesome. What's an element of your home that you love?
our outdoor shower.
I
Love it.
love an outdoor shower. That's amazing.
Yeah, it's so good.
What's a decision about your house that has made you happy?
Well, I'd say Jordan did it. It's this, we have a circular window that we put in, and it's so cool.
That is awesome. What's on your wish list for your home?
Wish list, a natural pool.
Ooh,
Yeah, where we'll take rainwater and we'll funnel it into the natural pool, and then we'll create like a grasslands filtration system so that it's naturally filtered and cleaned. No chlorine, and it'll just be a natural swimming hole, essentially.
amazing. What's something in your home that makes your life easier?
Oh, what's in my home that makes my life easier? Oh, there's so much. I'm just going to give a shout out to our
Yeah.
Berkey filter. We
Yeah,
love it. We filter all our water. Um, good,
awesome.
good to filter the water. Even though we live out here and it doesn't really need it, but
What's something that you think would surprise people about the person you are at home or your habits at home?
dare I admit it, I'm full on Fanny. I I just adore my Fanny. I like can't leave home without it because it's so nice. I like keep my pocket knife in there and I have like my wallet in there and everything. And it's kind of embarrassing because it doesn't necessarily go with anything, but I always have to wear it even when I'm dressed, kind of nice.
That's a really good one. Who's someone you admire who you think really lives well?
Oh, the name that comes to mind is, well, I'm gonna say Joel Sallerton. He's a farmer.
Awesome. Why?
Wow, he's a don't mess around, a natural farmer who's I think has the right values and is bold enough to like stand up for them.
What does a life well lived look like to you now?
Oh, just knowing that I've been able to deepen my relationship to death. Um, Death is ever present here on the land, and it's just something you have to contend with regularly. And I think the better relationship you have with that process, the more you appreciate being alive. And so connecting with the important aspect of change, absolute change, and appreciating that we are here now is important to me.
Speaking of that, when your time comes, how do you want to be remembered?
Not necessarily with a headstone. Like, that's the thing is I never understood like a headstone. I couldn't
Kind of
fit
stuffy.
everything. It's like, but there's not enough space. I'd have to carve a lot into my headstone if I wanted everyone to know what I was all about. I was thinking my wife and I wanted to start a business. Don't steal the idea, okay, everybody out there. But if you are, I want to cut. We're going to call it holograves. Holograves, and what you do is you record a hologram of yourself telling your story, and then if people come by your grave, a hologram will pop up, and you'll get to learn about me and my life and what I did or didn't do, and my successes and mostly my failures. I want people to know how much I didn't get it right.
Yep. Have you thought about what your holograve would say? The first line of your holograve?
Boo.
I think that's fitting. What inspires you to live better?
Wanting to see my children grow up and knowing that they're coming. I don't have children yet, but I'm anxiously waiting to meet them.
Yeah. Awesome. Well, thank you so much. This has been a fantastic conversation, and I'm really excited for people to hear your story.
Thank you so much. Appreciate it, and goodbye, everyone.
Thank you to Adrian Grenier for welcoming us into his home. I'm Kristen Twyford, and if you enjoyed our conversation, I hope you'll subscribe now to make yourself at home and leave us a review. And be sure to follow along with Adrian on Instagram at Adrian Grenier and at EarthSpeed. Make Yourself at Home is presented by Nines, household management software that helps you manage your properties and everything that comes with them, so you can make the most of your time at home. Learn more at ninesliving.com.